OK, but we are going to start with Manchester United's 1-0 win at Everton last night. It was the substitute, Benjamin Šeško, who scored another goal from off the bench to earn Michael Carrick's side the win to strengthen their hopes of securing Champions League football. Look, Ashley, it's interesting, isn't it? Because Jamie Carragher was saying that United are guaranteed Champions League football now. Do you agree with that?
Well, nothing's guaranteed, is it?
No, that's true.
Their form could fall away. I think in this form and the way they're playing, they are definitely guaranteed, and it would be probably Aston Villa looking over their shoulder at Manchester United, because they are playing really good since Michael Carrick's been in. I don't see their form changing at all. I think he's got a formula that works, and that they're enjoying their football. They look happy about it. So, you know, in terms of that, if they can keep performing like that, yes, they're guaranteed Champions League football, but you just never know with football in the Premier League. We see it with teams all the time, and form is such a flippant thing that it could go another way, but they do look in a really healthy place.
Yeah, there's a nice tussle for it at the moment in terms of the table. Gary Neville perhaps has rose-tinted glasses on, who knows, but he thinks they're finished third. What do you think of that?
No, I have to say, at the minute, I agree with him. I think Manchester United are the form team over Villa.
Yeah.
Aston Villa look a little bit nervous, and you know that they're starting to listen to the fans, and they're starting to look at Manchester United and worry about that instead of just doing what they need to do. So, you know, I'm happy for Manchester United. It's been such a difficult, however many years for the fan base. Now, you know, they're looking at a team that they enjoy watching. I enjoy watching. I'm not a Manchester United fan, but at the minute, their style of football that they're playing is really good. So you want, you know, if you're a fan of the Premier League, you want to see Manchester United doing well, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. You might disagree with that, being with your Aston Villa hat on there, Dave. But it has been an amazing turnaround, hasn't it, since Carrick arrived?
Yeah, I mean, it has. I mean, they've played well. I don't think a lot of people will remember the game at Hill Dickinson last night in 10 years' time as a Premier League classic. But you can't argue with the results. Look at that, unbeaten, 5 wins out of 6, different kinds of opposition, different kinds of performances. And if you look at the form table as well, across the rest of the Premier League, they've been absolutely magnificent compared to the rest of the Premier League. There they are, top of the form table, 16 points from 6 games ahead of Chelsea, Manchester City, Bournemouth, Arsenal and West Ham as well. So the question is now, where might they finish? Well, I guess if you were thinking about where they started the season under Ruben Amorim, and then where they might initially finish under Ruben Amorim. So we've got match weeks along the bottom here and the cumulative points along the vertical. And if you obviously starting bottom left, that is Ruben Amorim in charge. And then Amorim is obviously greyed out there around match week 21 when Darren Fletcher took charge. And then we can see Michael Carrick take over the team. There's 3 divergent lines going off the season there. So if Ruben Amorim was still in charge with his current points per game when he left the club, United are due to finish on 59 points, which, according to our friends at Opta, would be outside of what they expect to be the Champions League places, top 4, top 5 this season. You can see the Opta prediction there is that United will finish on 64, which is right on the cusp of what they believe Champions League football qualification will be. So 4th and 5th, we're expecting 5th to be Champions League. 4th and 5th is around 64, 65 points. So United are right on that line, according to what Opta are predicting. But if they continue on this points per game that Michael Carrick is on at the moment, the line goes up to 77 points, which would absolutely be a guarantee of Champions League football. So 3 different outcomes this season could have been. 1 under Ruben Amorim, 1 is the potential predicted, and 1 is under Michael Carrick. Where will they end up?
It's interesting, isn't it? What's he done with this amazing upturn? Because if we go back to that form table, it's remarkable that they are absolutely top of that table right this moment.
Well, you know, we need to give him as much praise as possible. But one of the things he did do was the obvious, the simple thing, which was change the formation, put players in positions that they've played most of their careers, give a little bit of freedom to the attacking players. And now I think once he's, you know, when he did that in the first 2 games that he took charge, I think it was Manchester City and Arsenal.
Yeah, quite tough ones.
2 of the difficult ones. I think he literally put them back in the shape, the 4-2-3-1, and said, you know, go and play. And now he's adding layers to it every game. And OK, the last 2 games haven't performed as well, but you know that happens in the Premier League. You're still getting the points. You're not losing games. Clean sheet last night. So I think he's adding layers, and he'll continue to do that and what he wants from his team. But just as a start, you know, putting that back 4 back in place, letting the good players that they brought in the summer, the Cunha and Buemo, those type of players, a little bit of freedom. Ahmad, freedom, go and play. I don't think he's over-coaching the attacking play going forward. You see they get the ball fast and early, and they go and play with a little bit of freedom. So without taking anything away from me, I just think he's simplified the game from when Ruben Amorim was there.
But I think you're right to point out, actually, that not everything has been amazing for Manchester United during this run. And even last night, I think there were problems in the build-up last night. I think Everton had the most high turnovers of any Premier League game they've had this season. Couldn't convert any of them into a shot on goal. So United had problems building out from the back last night against a different opposition, maybe better opposition.
Yeah.
That opposition would convert one of those high turnovers into at least an attempt on goal. So that there's still issues that Michael Carrick needs to get over. But then by the same token, it's hard to go to a David Moyes side away from home and be so fluent and win the game 3-4. It doesn't really happen. But also, the evidence suggests from this Manchester United side, can you rely on this group of players to string together win, 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 win? The evidence doesn't suggest that they're going to reach 77 and keep going on that points per game. So it's a case of, particularly now, when a result does go against United, how do they react after that? And that is how I think United's season will be defined.
Yeah, do you agree with that? Because that's a lot of people are saying, the only way that he's going to actually be looked upon properly is when actually he loses 3 games in a row potentially, and what he does then. Do you agree with that kind of thinking?
Yeah, well, absolutely, because only time will tell a little bit of adversity which he hasn't faced yet in this little short spell, and how does he react? Knowing him and just seeing how he goes about his demeanour, I think he'll be very calm and calculated, and I don't think he'll. I think for once at Manchester United we're going to see a little bit of calmness and good press conferences and saying the right thing, not something that we can all grasp onto straight away and make a big deal of it. So I do think that he will respond in the right way, and I think he'll control his players in the right way. But I agree, it's been very rosy for him at the minute, and as a manager I can only imagine that life's great when it's like that, but maybe no winning 3 games or something like you say, and then we'll see really what he's all about. But at the minute, he can only do what he's doing. I don't think he can do any more.
And he's got the fans on side, which is quite remarkable, isn't it? Because I think there was that kind of, attitude against Ruben Amorim that really wasn't going very well in terms of his relationship with the fans. How important is that to get, Old Trafford singing again?
Massive, because they had all the ownership problems, and it's been, for as long as I can remember now, it's been, since Sir Alex Ferguson left, that place. I've been in that stadium many times just watching games as a fan of football, and it'd been toxic in there. So he's one of their own. They're playing football, as I said, which is interesting to watch. You're enjoying watching this team play. The fans are back. They're going to support him anyway because he's a legend of the club, as long as he gives them something to go with. And if you're involved in Manchester United, it's a happy place to be. And as I said, I'm not a Manchester United fan, but I'm happy for them because they've had such a hard time and they're such a massive club. So much scrutiny over them all the time, what the manager's saying and doing and this player. And at the minute, they've just had a nice little, few weeks where everything's going well. And just going back to what you said, I think that, the build-up play, Martinez has been a different type of player. Without him in the team, they can't build up as well. So that's something that he's going to have to manage. If he's not on the pitch, who does that for him?
Yeah, OK. Well, if Michael Carrick gets the Manchester United team into the Champions League, should he get the full-time job? Well, we've been asking this on a poll today, and look, 85% say yes. Would you agree with that, Ashley, that, because there's this, again, a big chat about it has to be a big name and that's what Manchester United need. But actually, this is a man that's doing a great job so far. And if he does get them into the Champions League, why not?
I absolutely agree with it. I cannot understand why he wouldn't get the job if he continues doing the job he's doing, because they've tried everything at and you've seen it with other clubs. You can go after the biggest name in the world. If it's not the right fit, it doesn't matter. And who's to say he's not going to be a big name in management in the next 5 years or 6 years? He might go on and win things. So why wouldn't he get? What more can he do? What's the point if he goes and gets that club into the Champions League from where they were? I know there wasn't when Ruben Amorim left, there wasn't in a bad where they were in the league, but they was playing dreadful football. So he's changed the whole thing around. He completely deserves to get that. I don't know. I have no idea why. Even if the most attractive manager pops up and is available, why you would overlook someone that's proven in this time. He's had enough time. It's not like he's had 3 or 4 games. He'll have had enough games to show that he can get the job done. So, if they do finish, say, 3rd, for me, he's a shoo-in to get the job.
Yeah, it's interesting why there's such a clamour for a big name at Manchester United. Can you understand and sympathise with perhaps why a club of Man United's stature wants a big name at the helm?
Yes, but I think there has to be a bit of realism as to where Manchester United are right now. And we're talking about them fighting tooth and nail to get into the Champions League. We're not talking about them being a title contender. And I don't think they're going to be a title contender next season. It might only be the year after. You know, whoever comes in next, or if it's Michael Carrick, they're going to need 2-3 transfer windows again to continue with this team. It's more, I guess, what his remit was when he took over. If his remit was get us into the Champions League and you'll get an interview, perfect. I think what they need to show, what the Manchester United hierarchy will be thinking about is what's the long-term plan? What's the playing style? What kind of players would you like to sign or be involved in the conversation for signing? How are you going to cope with Bruno Fernandes ageing out? How do you see the evolution of this United squad? How do you see the future of football? Set pieces, long throws. Is this what Manchester United want to be? There's lots of questions that you would ask a manager in an interview and get their thoughts on and how they see United going forward. So, yeah, he might achieve the short-term targets, but I think for United it's more about long-term. Can he work under the structure? Can he deliver for United sustainably? They can win a trophy. Eric Ten Hag's proved that. This is about sustainable success now for United.
Yeah, OK. So, Benjamin Šeško with the winner off the bench for the second successive game. So are we really beginning to see, actually, Ashley, why they paid £70 million for this man? Well,
it's a lot of money, but we are, you know, he's coming up with some important goals. And I'm happy for him as well, because he really struggled at the start, like all the Manchester United players did, but he especially did. And now you're starting to see he's putting the finishing touch on moves like this, which is this really isn't about Sesko, this goal, for me personally. It's a great ball from Cunha, and Mbeumo does his thing, and it's the run that we'll see that makes the goal. But he's coming up, his movement, he's showing now that he is a good player. So I've got to admit, I didn't see much of him abroad. And when he first came, I was a little bit, weren't sure myself. I couldn't see it at all. Whereas now, I'm starting to see how clever he is in and around the box, movement from crosses, and he's starting to look like the real deal. They've got a conundrum on their hands. I know everyone's talking about it. Should he start? Should he not? That's the real conundrum. But realistically, if you've paid out all that money in the summer to go and get those players, and the players are now showing what they're all about, and they're getting you out of situations like last night where maybe you're not playing as good as you want to play, those three players link up and get you out of trouble, which is exactly what you brought them in for.
What we do see is speed. I mean, it's extraordinary, the pace, the movement he's got. We'll see that, I think, again, in terms of what he can cover, in terms of the there we are, you can see here the speed of him when he goes here. It's quite remarkable, really.
You know what, he's obviously very fast, but what I love about it is the desire. You can be as fast as you want, but if you don't have that desire to go and get your goal and go and win the game and get in the end, you can see by his celebration, he was so pumped up for that. So when that ball gets played forward and it's between you and the defender, he could have jogged. We see it every week where you just jog and you hope your mate Mbeumo goes and does a bit of magic and scores a goal, but he was like, no, I'm going in the hope that this falls to me exactly where it did. So I love that about him, that he wants to score goals. He's got the desire to do that, 85-yard sprint and the pace with it to get on the end of it. Fair play to him. To answer your original question, he looks like he's coming up good for the money at the minute, but I don't want to speak too soon. Yeah,
it was a great goal. I loved it, and absolutely agree with everything Ashley said about the desire to get up there. I think he was clocked at almost 22 miles an hour, one of the fastest sprints in the Premier League. But you talk about the pace, right? And what I loved about here we go. That's 21, 22 miles an hour there. This is the fastest forwards by Premier League strikers this season. Will Asula top, but Benjamin Sesko is obviously right up there. But what I also really liked about that, not only did he get up to the top speed, but he slowed down. And when he received the ball, when he struck the ball, he was travelling at almost 15 miles an hour. So he was able to slow himself down, composure, plant the foot, and still finish. I mean, I've done it in five-a-side when you run up to that. I mean, I know you've done that? No. I was going to say, I've done it where I've ballooned it over the cage. It's gone outside. But when you're running onto a ball like that, to slow yourself down, composure, and put it in the bottom corner, that's what I love. The deceleration, not only the top speed. But listen, I know not everyone's at home watching the Premier League show, but I bet you should be every day. But we did do a piece on the Premier League show January the 8th. I've actually reposted it on my X feed today if anyone wants to go back. But against Burnley, we did a piece on how quick he was. And he's rapid. He's absolutely rapid, and particularly when he defends corners, right? So when he defends corners, one of his positions is basically right on top of the goal line, and United have launched a couple of quick breaks, and he has flown from one end of the pitch to the other to try and get on the end of things. And I think that's one of his most underrated characteristics. Really, everyone sees the frame, everyone sees the size, but actually his movement is absolutely fantastic. He's able to move that size of body so quick. His runs in behind, I think only Brian Mbeumo has had more runs in behind than Sesko this season. So mobility-wise, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, rapid. He has been used as a bit of an impact sub by Michael Carrick. Do you feel from him a bit? That looks like might be his role at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Because all players want to play. Everybody wants to start. There's not. I don't know. I've never come across a player that wants to come off the bench or start games on the bench. But Michael, it's working for Manchester United at the minute. So why would you change that? And as a manager, you do have to think about how do I impact this game if things aren't going well. Now, at the minute for Manchester United, he's the best change that they can make, if that makes sense. So if you think about taking somebody else out of that front four, maybe Cunha, but you wouldn't do that. So I think the key to this situation is the manager communicating the situation with his player. Now I'd like to think Michael Carrick is, because he's a really good communicator, and he's just explaining, look, don't drop in your levels, or don't become. It's not a confidence thing. Just stay at it, and your time will come. You will get starts, but at the minute, we need to use you, all of us. We're all benefiting with you coming off the bench. So stay patient with me. Don't get upset about it. And I do think Michael Carrick will be communicating that. And if he does that, it will be okay. But you do feel for him, because as football players, you work up all week to play that game, and when you sit on the bench, it's not fun. And especially when you keep coming off and scoring, he's going to be saying, "I'm doing my job." But I can see where the manager's coming from, saying, well, if I start you, which is who do I take out? And then who's going to make an impact if we are 0-0 at Everton away and we need somebody to come on and score a goal? At the minute, unfortunately, you're the man to do that.
It's funny, though, because we spoke a little bit before we came on air, didn't we? And I was trying to think of somebody, but the only one for me is maybe Leandro Trossard, that actually did that a lot for Arsenal last season, and look what's happened this season. He's, in the starting 11, so maybe that's where he's, Michael Carrick's going to have that conversation, if he gets the job permanently, of course. If we look about Šeško, can we kind of compare him to somebody that did something rather remarkable back in 1999? Well, super sub, the original super sub.
The letters in his name are shared, that's for sure.
Yes, I like it.
Solskjaer and Sesko.
Yeah.
I think... Look, I think the thing is as well, United want to be playing in all the competitions, and the fact is this season they're not, and maybe Šeško would have got more minutes had United have gone deeper in the FA Cup, for example.
Yeah.
But if you look at actually Solskjaer's record at Manchester United compared to Šeško, small sample size, I will give you that. But have a look at Solskjaer here. He had a better record coming off the bench, almost a goal per 90 minutes coming off the bench. But if you look at also Benjamin Šeško as well, it's very similar, the numbers of him coming off the bench for goals per 90. So, look, Ashley knows, of course, players want to start, they want to play. But I just wonder, he's got loads of time. He's 22, he's got loads of time to establish himself in this Manchester United first team. Maybe right now, this is the best role for him. Yeah,
and also, just to add on to that, it might be a case of Michael Carrick's protecting him a little bit as well, because the minute he starts and doesn't perform well, we're all going to have something to say about it. So maybe the manager's just saying, do you know what, let me just protect this boy a little bit, and I'll put him on when I need to put him on, and now he gets his rewards. Instead of, if he starts the next game and he doesn't score, he doesn't play very well, the critics come straight out again. So, we're going to get the comparisons with Solskjaer, and I don't think anyone really would want that tag apart from Solskjaer, who seemed to thrive on it. But I don't see Sesko as being a long-term super sub at all. I think, like you say, next season maybe he'll be leading the line for Manchester United. I'm
interested to hear you say about the fact that perhaps he's being protected a little bit, because Gyökeres at times hasn't quite shone for Arsenal, and then kind of it hadn't quite worked out, but it seems to be really working out right now. Who would you prefer to come up against, Gyökeres or Šeško?
If I was playing at Gyökeres, just because he likes more of a physical battle, and I always like the physical battle. And as I was saying before, Sesko's really clever in the box. Really, he tends to lull the defender to sleep a little bit, and he'll pop up, and they're they're the difficult ones to play against. Me personally, I used to like it when I'd have a fight the whole game. It would keep you switched on. So, but within saying that, I think Gyökeres at the minute is probably playing better and showing more signs of being a good player than Sesko, if that makes sense. But for me personally, I liked one that was going to, good battle in a game.
All right, we'll let you two tussle then. We'll go to a break. Right, coming up next for you, we're going to be live to St James's Park ahead of Newcastle against Carrick in the Champions League playoff this evening. And we're going to ask Ashley if Tottenham really, really could be relegated. All there, Ashley?
I think that the Lamens one's good. The Raya one is impressive. I think just the agility and the reaction time. And the goalkeeper's practiced that a lot in training, and the situation doesn't actually arise that much, but he responded really well for that one.
Yeah, OK. Well, we want to talk about Lamens, actually, because what have you made of his performances so far this season? Pretty impressive? Yeah,
really good. And I think the biggest compliment that I can give to him, coming in after Onana, is that we haven't spoken that much about him, which is really good as a goalkeeper. Yeah. You don't want to be, if you're getting spoken about majority of the time, it's probably because you've made a mistake. And actually, he made some, that big save last night. But he's been really good, I think, just on the whole, coming and taking crosses. And I remember when he came in and I was in here and didn't know much about him, and we was trying to find out about what's his qualities and his size. Is that an issue? And well, no, it isn't actually, because he's been very calm and influenced behind his defence. I think that as a centre back myself, goalkeepers can sometimes be a bit nutty, but this guy, I always preferred. I preferred just someone calm behind me that I know would be in the right place. He communicates well in a calm manner because there's so much going on, and he seems like that guy. He speaks well. His distribution's good. These are the ones that are really impressive. Stuff like this that we're seeing all the time now in the Premier League, and for a goalkeeper that's not massive, he's doing very well with it. So, for Manchester United and their fans, I'm sure what a signing that has, but it's quietly been one of the signings this season.
I think decision making, and Ashley talked about it there. Everton was swinging those corners in the last 10 minutes, right on top of him. 15 players inside the 6-yard box, and he made the right decision every time, whether to stay and let the Stramash continue in front of him, or to try and come through and make the first contact on the ball. So decision making at crucial moments, right at the end of that game, really good. Is he doing enough to become United's permanent number one?
Yeah, 100%. Again, just like we had the same conversation about the manager, but why would you change who you're going to go and get? You can go and have a look for someone else, but when someone's doing their job as well as this guy, you reward him and you keep him in there. If I was a centre back, if I was Harry Maguire right now, or Martinez or whoever, this is the man that I would want behind me.
OK, well, let's stay with goalkeepers, because Jamie Carragher chose his top 10 Premier League keepers of all time on the Monday Night Football yesterday. Here's his list. He named Petr Cech, I think, as number one there, as you can see. What do you think? Do you agree with this list here? Where would they rank for you?
It's a tough one. For me, I would probably go with Peter Schmeichel as number one.
Right.
There's some great goalkeepers on there. I'd definitely have Van der Sar higher than 6th. I'd go Schmeichel. Well, David Seaman higher than 9th.
Yeah,
Schmeichel in action, I think.
Very tough. Yeah, Schmeichel's one for me. I'd go with. Growing up, that was like the gold standard of goalkeeping. So I'd have him as number one. But they're not to take anything away from the other goalkeepers. Some excellent names on there. Schmeichel one for me is the one that I'll go for. Very surprised about.
Yeah, he should be higher. I think he's got the top 3 right. I mean, you could have those 3 in any order, I think, and you couldn't really have an argument. I think Van der Sar's got to be higher. Maybe swap De Gea and Van der Sar.
I would say that. Yeah.
Is there anyone who's missed out, do you think, that should be on in that top 10? You can think of.
Maybe Martinez, maybe.
Yeah.
No bias in that.
No, absolutely not. I say Dave never brings any
times.
It's an interesting list, though, isn't it? I mean, the top 3 you might argue about. But do you think there's anyone currently playing in the Premier League that could, like the likes of Lamens, for example, that will get into that top 10?
Yeah, I think, Lamens is really early. Listen, if Arsenal go on and win the Premier League and do it again, like we've seen, and win loads of trophies, David Raya gets onto the list for me. I think he's changed. He's been part of the... We're talking about Arsenal's mentality. He's part of that situation, I think. Really important with his two centre-backs, that little triangle there. So probably him. We've got Alisson on there already. But I think we have been blessed in the Premier League with some really good goalkeepers. There's no one else really that's pushing, I don't think, at the minute. If you look at the top teams, no one else. But I'd say David Raya, if they win things, because most people here have got a big trophy cabinet.
And if Donnarumma gets the longevity at City, he'll be on that list for sure. Yeah,
I forgot about him. What about you? Who is the best keeper that you ever played with?
I think the best goalkeeper that I played in front of was Michel Vaughan for Swansea, just because he was so calm. He was so good with his feet. One of the best passers in the team. That was before it became, a trend. And he was, as I said, he was calm and a calm and influence. You knew where he was. He always communicated enough, but he didn't over-communicate, let you get on with it, trusted, what you was going to do. Had a really good relationship with him, on and off the field, but outstanding goalkeeper for Swansea.
It seems like an obvious question, but why, if they're not calm, what does that do to you as
I think it just sets a panic off, and I think this is really important in football in general. So there's communication, but it's the tone as well of the communication, because, I might be saying to you, man on, but if I say it in a man on, that means we got to go quick.
Yeah.
Whereas I think some people use that tone when it's not necessary, and goalkeepers seem to do that a lot. I think from behind they use a tone of communication that sets off a bit of a panic, and that goes throughout the defence. And you also get the goalkeeper that moans when he saves a shot, which really annoys me, because...
You want a name and shame, because now's your chance.
No, there's a few probably, but I see it all the time, and I'm like, well, that would just be like a defender winning a header and celebrating it, a moaning at his striker, but you're going to have to save some shots. I don't like those ones. They get you back up a little bit, but the calm goalkeepers for me are the best ones to play in front of.
Yeah.
And the calm presenters, of course.
To the top four. But actually, is it now the top five? As you can see, our chief correspondent, Carvey Solskjaer, is back with us. So why could fifth be enough for Champions League football?
I'm going to put my reputation on the line. I think it's almost guaranteed that the team that finishes fifth in the Premier League this season will get into the Champions League next season. And the reason I say that is, of course, top four, you get into the Champions League automatically. Mm-hmm. But UEFA also reserve 2 places in the Champions League. And these places are awarded to the countries who have the best record in European club competitions this season. And they work it out quite a complicated way. They have UEFA ranking coefficients where clubs get 2 points for a win, 1 point for a draw, and also bonus points for progressing in European competitions. But basically, at the moment, England have a really, really healthy lead at the top of the coefficient table. So as things stand, England and Germany would get an extra place. So whoever finishes fifth in the Premier League would get into the Champions League. And England are the only club in UEFA competitions where all the clubs are still in European competition. And I think if you looked at the Champions League final table, 5 of the top 8 were English teams. 6 of the top 12 were English teams. Nottingham Forest are doing really well. They're going to get into the knockout stage of the Europa League. Crystal Palace are well placed as well. Newcastle United almost certainly going to get into the knockout stages as well. So that is why I say I'm putting my reputation on the line. But there's still a long way to go in the European competitions. But if English teams carry on playing as well as they're playing, then fifth place will get you in the Champions League.
I'm
100% guaranteed.
Because you have got quite the reputation, certainly within these 4 walls. Why is Champions League football so important? Just explain to those who...
Well, look, there's the prestige of playing in the Champions League, but because of the new format, you make so much more money from playing in the Champions League. For instance, just from playing in the league phase of the competition this season, Tottenham have made, I think, £73 million. Clubs like Man City, Arsenal, Liverpool, they've made about 86, 87 million pounds. Chelsea, I think, have made 83 million pounds. We haven't even got to the knockout stages. And for a club like Manchester United, who've been going through a tough time, getting back into the Champions League would be an absolute game changer because of the effect it would have on their commercial contracts, their revenue, their broadcast revenue, and also the kind of players they could attract in the transfer market as well. So I know a lot of United fans are focusing on trying to finish third or fourth. I think fifth will be good enough this season.
OK. I think we can have a look at the Premier League table at the moment. So, Ashley, if you could cast your opinion on who makes that top five then at the moment, do you think? Is it as it stands, or do you think Liverpool might creep in there?
I think the only team that, maybe push into the top five is Liverpool. And I'd say if anyone drops out, it'd be Aston Villa. But as really? I think probably as it stands is, I think these might change here, but I think that it'll be those five at the minute. And I think that's great for Manchester United and Aston Villa, but especially Manchester United, like you said, because we want to see Manchester United in the Champions League. They represent the Premier League. It's very interesting that all of the English teams are still in it, because it just goes to show how strong this league is. We say it's the best league in the world, and it's kind of being proven.
Yeah.
And also, we could even have more than 5 teams. For instance, this season we had 6 because Tottenham won the Europa League. So we could have more again next season as well, because somebody like Liverpool could finish outside the top 5 but win the Champions League. Also, a club like Nottingham Forest could get into the Champions League by winning the Europa League, or Aston Villa could do it that route as well. So I think you're getting to see why so many other European leagues are really, really worried. Well, they've been worried for a very, very long time about how powerful the Premier League has become.
OK, Carvey, can you give us an update on Gianluca Prestiani? Because obviously the Champions League was in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is an absolute massive story. A big, big game tomorrow night, Real Madrid versus Benfica. Winner takes all. Whoever loses will be out of the Champions League. But of course, the whole build-up to the game has been overshadowed by the allegation that Vinicius Junior made that he was racially abused by Gianluca Prestiani in the first leg in Lisbon. Now, UEFA have acted very, very quickly. They appointed an ethics inspector. He produced an interim report. He gave that interim report to UEFA's disciplinary body. They had a look at it. There was the recommendation from the inspector that Prestiani should be suspended straight away provisionally for 1 game. And that is what UEFA did. But Benfica this morning, instead of leaving Prestiani at home when they left Lisbon, he was on the team bus, drove to Lisbon Airport. He came out of the Benfica team bus, flanked by 2 Benfica directors. He got on the plane with the rest of the Benfica squad, flew to Madrid, checked into Benfica's hotel in the centre of Madrid, and then this evening he went to the Bernabeu and he trained with the rest of the Benfica players at the stadium. And of course, Jose Mourinho, he's suspended as well for the game. He was there taking training as well. Benfica are appealing against the suspension. They have admitted they only have a very, very small chance of any sort of appeal being heard before the game tomorrow night. But I just sense that Jose Mourinho and Benfica are sending out a message to say that we believe in our player. Jose Mourinho's trying to develop a siege mentality. We've got our backs against the wall. We're united. We're going to take the player with us. He's going to train with us even though he is suspended. So we've seen it work for Jose Mourinho before in the past. I mean, it would be a stunning achievement for them to go to the Bernabeu tomorrow and overturn that 1-0 deficit from the first leg.
Just in terms of this situation with Prestiani and Vinicius Junior, do you feel it's being dealt with, the situation that seems to be raising its ugly head quite a lot, in fact? So do you think it's being dealt with in the right and proper way at the moment?
In this situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, because listen, we don't know what was said. We don't know what was... We assume he said something because of the allegation and the fact that he covered his mouth.
Yes.
But we don't actually know that, like, standing here, so... They're going to have to do some sort of investigation, which they are. I think it's the right move to take him out of the next game. I don't think that's too harsh. I think, maybe he should be removed from the next game. And then they'll investigate it and see. In the majority of cases, no, I don't think it gets dealt with correctly. I think that we kind of, in today's society and with the games, you can lip read, you can see certain reactions from players that will tell you exactly what's been said, and then we don't deal with it harshly enough. But in this case, it's a tough one because if it's just like anything. If one person, if I say you called me something, you say you didn't, we don't, only those two people and anyone in earshot knows exactly what was said. So I think it's probably correct to take him out of this game. I definitely agree with what you're saying. It's classic Jose Mourinho using the situation as a siege mentality. The world's against us, and maybe that fires his team on. But the bigger situation was racist language used, which if it was, then that's a disgrace and it should be dealt with appropriately.
And just on that, so as we're remove it from this case because we don't know, but if this happens and if it was proven that somebody was using racist language on the pitch, what needs to happen to that player?
Well, there needs to be a situation, they need to make set a precedent where it's that harsh that nobody does it again. But then I feel like we're in a situation where you say, well, if someone's going to do it, and if they're thinking that, they're always going to think and do that anyway. So there shouldn't need to be a reparation or a season-long ban or whatever it is. Like, throw the book at the player, yes, but if that person's racist and feels racist towards someone, then they're always going to be that, whether they're banned for one game, the whole season, 10 seasons, banned forever. They're racist. So it's a bigger problem that we've got in society anyway. That needs to be addressed from probably, I'm guessing, from a younger age.
Like an education.
Education all the way up. So it's bigger than this one isolated situation. But I do feel that, we should, whatever the maximum length of a ban it can be given, should be given.
All right, Ashley, thanks for your comments on that. OK.